It was 2 in the morning when I saw 2 messages on my boyfriend's phone. Except for you, everyone else is just a compromise. Just say the word. And I'll be by your side instantly. How romantic. Too bad they weren't meant for me. My hand trembled, the phone clattering to the floor as tears blurred my vision. Those 2 messages sat there, unanswered, mocking me. It turns out the man I loved with all my heart was nothing more than someone else's desperate admirer. I've loved Chris for as long as he's loved Taylor. But I never imagined that just a month before our engagement, he'd tell her I was merely a compromise. Chris lay on the bed, fast asleep and reeking of alcohol. In that moment, a wave of coldness washed over me. I had spent 6 years chasing after him, hoping for a love that was never mine to begin with. Chris only ended up with me because Taylor, the most popular girl on campus, had rejected him for the 11th time. He was drinking his sorrows away by the lake when he called me. At midnight, I sneaked out of my dorm, scraping my knee in the process. When I finally limped to the lake, a drunken Chris pulled me into a tight hug. "Sarah, let's be together," he whispered, his voice raspy. "I'll treat you well." My heart raced, and I nodded frantically, blinded by hope. I knew Chris didn't love me. But I foolishly believed that if I just tried harder, I could win his heart. After graduation, Taylor and I both landed jobs at a top-tier tech firm. Chris struggled, eventually settling for a low-paying role at a small company. For years, I covered our rent and daily expenses. Yet, I discovered that on every holiday, Chris would send Taylor money and expensive gifts. Meanwhile, the most expensive gift he ever bought me was a $7 knockoff Pikachu plush. In that moment, I finally understood that no matter what I did, I would never replace Taylor. I spent the entire night scrolling through their messages, unable to close my eyes. The next morning, as soon as Chris left for work, I took a day off. I packed everything I owned and had a moving company deliver it to my best friend Diana's place. Then I sent Chris a single text. "We're over, let's break up." He didn't reply for 2 hours. "Stop acting out," he finally messaged. "I've moved my things." "You'll have to pay the rent yourself starting next month," I replied. The typing indicator flickered for a long time before he sent back a mocking response. "Whatever. Suit yourself." He was certain that, just like every other time. I was just throwing a tantrum and would be the first one to crawl back and apologize. As Diana helped me unpack, she looked at me with disbelief. "Sarah, are you really sure about this?" "Yes," I replied softly. Leaving him wasn't as hard as I had imagined. "But didn't you just say last week that you were planning to meet the parents and get engaged next month?" After a long silence, I whispered, "I told my mom." "She supports me. She wants me to leave him too." One night, I worked until midnight. It was pouring rain, and the rideshare queue was hundreds of people long. I called Chris repeatedly, but he never answered. I had no choice but to head back to the office and sleep on my desk. The next morning, as I limped out to get coffee, I saw Chris's car parked at the entrance. He wasn't there for me. He was there to drop off Taylor. That night at Diana's place, I slept surprisingly well. The next day, my boss announced a major new project. A team from the client's side was coming over for a meeting. When I walked into the conference room, I locked eyes with a man who had a gentle, knowing smile. "I'm Julian," he introduced himself. "I'm the lead for the Spring River project. I look forward to working with you all." As I presented the proposal, Julian's eyes never left me. Beside me, Taylor was staring at him too, her longing impossible to hide. After the meeting, she chased after him, calling out, "Senior." In that moment, everything clicked. Taylor never accepted Chris because she was in love with Julian. A bold, crazy thought flashed through my mind. If Taylor wanted Julian so badly, then I would make him mine. After work, I found Julian in the project group chat. "Mr. Julian," I messaged, keeping it professional. "I have a few points I'd like to clarify regarding the proposal." Do you have a moment? He didn't reply immediately. Then a message popped up. I'm just about to grab dinner. Why don't you join me and we can talk over a meal? My treat. Julian was waiting for me at the entrance. As we sat down, he naturally handed me the menu. Have a look. What do you feel like eating? It was a level of consideration I had never received from Chris. Chris couldn't stand spicy food, so I had given up my favorite spicy Thai dishes for years. But here, in this spicy Thai restaurant, Julian was asking what I wanted. Are you also a graduate of Thorne University, Julian? I asked. Yes, he smiled, his eyes crinkling. Communications engineering. I think I was 3 years ahead of you. So you're actually my senior, I exclaimed. We talked about the old campus and the upcoming anniversary. If work isn't too busy, I am going back for the celebration, I said. Then let's go together, Julian replied. Talking to Julian was a breath of fresh air. I didn't have to walk on eggshells or constantly monitor his mood to please him, the way I always did with Chris. After dinner, Julian drove me home. Julian, you're the client, I said. You treated me to dinner, and now you're driving me home. It's too much trouble. He tilted his head and smiled. The dinner was for work. As for the ride, he paused, his voice softening. I'm driving a fellow alumna home, not a business partner. Over the following weeks, I was at Julian's office almost every other day. He began to notice the small things. He remembered I loved spicy food and hated cilantro. He noticed I liked my black coffee with sugar but no milk, and he'd have a cup ready whenever I arrived. One night, when I felt down and shared a sad song on social media, Julian messaged me within minutes. Slowly, the nightmare of my years with Chris began to fade. One day, my boss sent Taylor to accompany me to Julian's office. I had spent the entire night debugging the code, but as soon as we sat down, Taylor tried to steal the credit. Senior, she said sweetly to Julian. This is the latest version that Sarah and I worked on together. I froze. My heart sinking. I am going to the restroom, I said, pushing the computer toward them. Julian, why don't you have Taylor walk you through the details? Taylor followed me into the restroom, her face contorted with anger. Sarah, is it really necessary to bring your personal drama with Chris into the office? I calmly dried my hands, looking at her in the mirror. If you don't want to jeopardize the project, do your job and stop trying to take credit for my work, I said firmly. She was only doing this to impress Julian, but I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. During lunch, Taylor tried a different tactic. Sarah, you and Chris are getting engaged next month. You should really stop acting out and forgive him. She spoke as if I were a child. Julian looked up, his gaze shifting between us. I took a deep breath. We broke up, Taylor. It's over. The shock in her eyes was satisfying. She used to love mentioning Chris to watch me squirm. But this time, I was the one who had walked away. Sarah, Julian said, breaking the silence. Can you come with me to the branch office this afternoon? You know the project better than anyone. Taylor's face fell. She was about to say something, but Julian cut her off. Taylor, you stay here and coordinate with the operations team. It was an incredible feeling. For years, Chris had always told me to just put up with Taylor, but Julian was the one standing up for me. As I stepped out of the office with Julian, a figure suddenly lunged toward me. Sarah, haven't you had enough of this tantrum? It was Chris. He looked frustrated. You've been pulling this for a month now. My parents are coming next week to discuss the engagement. I looked at him, feeling nothing but exhaustion. I'm not pulling anything, Chris. We broke up, I meant it. Break up. So you can keep acting like a doormat while you pine after your precious Taylor. I snapped. Chris's face twisted in rage. You were the one who came crawling to me. And now you're dumping me over nothing. Julian walked over, ignoring Chris entirely. Sarah, do you have everything? Chris's eyes narrowed. Oh, I see. You dump me and immediately find another man. You're nothing but a... You've got it wrong, Julian said, his voice steady and calm. "It's not her chasing me. I'm the one pursuing Sarah." As he spoke, the very air around me seemed to soften. In the sudden silence that followed, I could hear my heart racing, a feeling of excitement I hadn't felt in a long, long time. It was a genuine spark, untainted by the desperation of my past. Back in freshman year, Chris had carried me to the clinic after I fainted during the freshman orientation hike. I fell for him hard, only for him to turn cold once he caught sight of Taylor. For 4 years, he manipulated me. Every time another guy showed interest, Chris would tell me I was plain and ordinary. He wanted me to believe I was worthless, so I'd stay as his loyal backup. "I used to wonder why anyone would let a girl as talented as Sarah go," Julian said, a smirk playing on his lips as he looked at Chris. "But now I see, humans and animals simply have different tastes in beauty." He chuckled softly. "Thank you for letting her go, Chris. You've given me the chance to pursue her properly." Chris stood there, humiliated, as Julian led me away. Inside the car, I realized that Chris hadn't come to apologize on his own. Taylor must have pushed him to reclaim me to get me away from Julian. "Thank you for helping me back there," I whispered. "Sarah," Julian said, his expression earnest, "I wasn't just helping you. I meant every word I said." My heart fluttered, wanting to believe him but still shadowed by the past. We went for spicy skewers for dinner. Julian was sweating and blushing from the heat, which I found surprisingly cute. But when I checked my phone, my heart stopped. Taylor had shared an old roast from our campus forum about me being a stalker. She included photos of me looking sad and a bouquet of flowers I'd given Chris sitting in a trash can. Taylor hadn't stopped there. In the comments, she wrote, "It's just sad that someone would be a doormat for a guy who's already a doormat for someone else. I just don't want anyone else to be fooled by her." She knew Julian would see it. My face went pale as the shame I thought I'd escaped came rushing back, threatening to drown me. "Don't let it get to you." Julian's voice broke through my panic. "She posted this for me, didn't she?" I bit my lip. Julian smiled, completely unbothered. "If she did, it was a waste of time. All this shows is that you once met a piece of trash who didn't know how to treasure you. That's his failure, Sarah, not yours." His words were a soothing balm to my wounded soul. "Sarah, we've actually met before," Julian continued. 2 years ago, at the Thorne University Career Fair. You attended the entire session and submitted a resume. I called you for an interview, but you had vanished." I froze. I remembered that day. Julian's company had been my dream, but Chris had called me with an emergency, making me walk away from my future for him. Back then, Chris told me he was desperate for a specific brand of boba. I spent 3 hours in line to get him a cup, only for it to end up in Taylor's hands. "After you left the career fair, I reviewed your resume," Julian said. "You were a stellar candidate. I even called you to offer a direct interview, but you turned me down to stay with your boyfriend." He sighed. The problem was, his resume couldn't even pass the first screening. For years, I believed Chris's lies that I was plain and untalented. But looking back, I had a high GPA, annual scholarships, and even a gold medal from a national programming competition. I had built myself into someone brilliant without even realizing it. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was that no matter how much I achieved, I would never be Taylor in Chris's eyes. The ice around my heart finally began to melt. Julian's pursuit was bold and sincere. He drove me to work, ordered my favorite meals, and interacted with all my social media posts. One day, when I forgot my painkillers during a rough period, Julian had a box of ibuprofen delivered to my office within 20 minutes. My boss even teased me. "Julian is the youngest department head at Spring River, Sarah. Don't let this one get away." For the first time, I felt what it was like to be truly cherished. During the university anniversary, I finally asked Julian about Taylor. "She asked me out several times," Julian admitted as we walked through the campus. "But I rejected her every time. I made it very clear that she isn't my type. He stopped and looked at me, his eyes filled with warmth. The type I like is you, Sarah. My face flushed as he leaned in closer. It's always been you. That night, Chris called. Sarah, let's get lunch tomorrow, he said, his tone arrogant as if he were doing me a favor. Chris, I've made myself clear. We are over, I replied. Stop acting out. You've loved me for years. You're not just going to throw that away, are you? I laughed. It was pathetic. I don't love you anymore, Chris. Seeing your name on my phone makes me sick. And for the record, I hate Cantonese food. I only ate it because of you. Minutes later, Julian called. I'm downstairs, he said softly. Let's go grab some late-night snacks. Don't worry about makeup, just come down. We sat at a street stall, surrounded by the smell of grilled skewers. I haven't eaten this much in years, I confessed. Chris always told me I was fat, so I stopped eating dinner. Julian frowned and pushed a plate of grilled beef toward me. You're not fat, Sarah. You're perfect. Eat as much as you want. Under the hazy smoke of the barbecue stall, Julian looked me in the eye. Sarah, would you consider being with someone who actually loves and appreciates you? The fast beating of my heart felt like music. I looked at his kind, handsome face and nodded. Yes. I'd love that when I got home. I saw that Julian had changed his chat nickname to the only one, a silent promise that he would be the only one I ever needed. A few weeks later, Diana called with news. Chris had been fired. He had never taken his job seriously, often skipping work to run errands for Taylor. He had even offended his boss's wife by fighting over a designer bag in a mall. I felt nothing but a strange sense of peace. The man who had tried to make me feel worthless was finally facing the consequences of his own choices. In the parking lot, I ran into Taylor. She was screaming into her phone. Return them. They were gifts, Chris. I'm not giving them back just because you're broke. She hung up and glared at me. You only went after Julian to get back at me, didn't you? Does it matter? I replied coolly. You should probably return those gifts, Taylor. A desperate man's gifts usually come with a price. It turned out Chris had taken out predatory loans to buy Taylor those expensive gifts. Desperate and unemployed, he cornered her at work, begging her to return the bags so he could pay off his debt. I'll buy you better ones once I find a job, he pleaded, still acting the part of the devoted admirer. Taylor threw the empty bag at his face and told him to get lost. I watched from Julian's car, wondering how I could have ever loved such a man. On the day our first project launched successfully, Julian and I went public with our relationship. Julian, I have to admit, I initially approached you to spite Taylor, I confessed. He laughed and pulled me close. I know, Taylor already tried to warn me about you. But I didn't care. I was just happy you gave me the chance to know you. I leaned in and kissed him. It may not have been a traditional start, but it was the most perfect ending.